Joint Health Sector Union Johesu orders members to resume as strike ends. Christian Association of Nigeria, Nigerian Medical Association disagree over full reopening of churches. In international news, pressure mounts on U.S. senators to support or oppose a quick vote to confirm replacement for deceased Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And in sport, Obafemi Martins joins Chinese Super League side Wuhan FC.
This is ANN News.
I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Nigeria recorded 97 coronavirus infections on Sunday. This brings the total number of infections in the country to 57,242. Nigeria Center for Disease Control reviews the new cases were found in 12 states. Lagos topped 46. Kwara recorded 12 infections. River State recorded 11. Adamawa, Niger, Ogun, Osun, Ekiti, Imo, Kaduna, Plateau State and the Federal Capital Territory all recorded cases in single digits. Lagos remains the most impacted city in the country. More than 48,000 infected persons have recovered and been discharged after treatment across the country's 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. Only about 7,500 infections are still active in the country. The death toll from the virus is now 1,098. Public health workers are now back to work after the Joint Health Sector Unions ended its 7-day warning strike and directed its members nationwide to resume. Johesu members embarked on a warning strike last Monday after the government failed to meet the demands of the union. These include an upward review of COVID-19 special inducements and hazard allowances, the payment of all withheld salaries, adjustment of consolidated medical salary structure since 2014, among other things. Johesu National Chairman Bill Bello Moye Josiah says its expanded National Executive Council will decide the next line of action. Josiah further said the federal government had continued to exhibit a high level of bias by refusing to address the demands presented during the warning strike. Johesu says the union has shown high patriotism by demanding the public health system in Nigeria is sustained and adequately financed for effective, efficient, and affordable healthcare service delivery. Lagos chapter of the Christian Association of Nigeria and Nigerian Medical Association are bickering over Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu's decision to fully reopen churches in the state. NMA says the decision is too hasty, while CAN applauds the decision. Chairman of CAN, Apostle Alexander Bangbola, says prayers are responsible for the minimal effect of the virus in the state. He said a minimum of 30 million Nigerians were expected to die from the COVID-19 pandemic, but God prevented it. President Muhammadu Buhari has expressed concern about the surge in food prices at a time when the economy is already mired in a slowdown occasioned by the global coronavirus situation. The president's spokesman, Garba Shehu, says the president was already looking for ways to mitigate the problem. Correspondent Kelechi Mekalan took to the streets to sample the opinions of Abuja residents.
Mustafa Ahmed, a rice trader in Nigeria's capital Abuja, is running short of supply. He's been retailing this staple grain for nearly 2 decades, stocking over 100 bags weekly. But the hike in food prices has drastically affected his business. This also as the purchasing power of his customers diminish due to the COVID-19 lockdown.
Before, if I have a 1 million, I can buy 100 bags of rice. So now, highest that 1 million, highest she will buy 40 pieces, 40 bags. If I had a plan to gain 500 naira for each bag, now it's 100 naira. Then the 100 naira what I go make at again. People they are complaining. Some people they come now hungry, they even disturb them.
Before we used to buy rice like 350, but now foreign rice is 1,000 naira. Even Gwari is 750.
Nigeria has been leveraging on the agricultural sector as it diversifies its oil-dependent economy. According to the country's Bureau of Statistics, in 2019 alone, sector investment stood at $490 million, with consistent annual growth averaging 82%. But all these efforts have been hampered by flash floods in major food-producing states. Just recently in Nigeria's northwest Kebbi state, which is the highest rice producer in the country, over 450,000 hectares of rice were destroyed after heavy floods swept the region. Rice is the West African nation's staple grain. Several other factors like farmers' insecurity and infrastructural deficit have also continued to hold back the country's agricultural development.
What government can do is to ensure the security of farmers. Because when you have good security, people will go back to the farm. Secondly is to involve the youth. The youth involvement in agriculture. We have less youth now going into agriculture. We have to make agriculture much more palatable for them to come into. Youth involvement is very important, and also capital investment into agriculture, which means loans. The process of acquiring loans for agriculture is very tedious. If government can ensure that acquiring loan is very easy and is less stressful for people to even access loan.
Nigeria imports nearly $4 billion worth of rice and wheat annually due to its underdeveloped manufacturing industry. To improve the country's agricultural sector, the central bank has banned foreign exchange on importation of rice and other foods. Talks with Food Producers Association and other stakeholders are underway to tackle this rising food crisis.
Coming up, African stories. Intense debates in Zimbabwe over government's plan to return land to white former owners. And later, international news. Pressure mounts on U.S. senators to support or oppose a quick vote to confirm replacement for deceased Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
You are watching ANN.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. Zimbabwe's recent decision to return some farms to their former white owners has raised intense debates among different groups in the country. The Zimbabwean government implemented a land reform during the 2000s to redress colonial-era land grabs and give farms back to black Zimbabweans. Now it wants to return them to original white owners, throwing black farmers into anxiety. Correspondent Faraya Wakutuya has the story.
Half of the 22,000-hectare Forester estate that was protected by a bilateral treaty between Zimbabwe and Germany was occupied by dozens of black farmers during the land reform program. Some of them are now anxious about their future here.
I am surprised to hear that Forester can repossess this land. And to tell the truth, my colleagues have talked about offer letters and other things, but here the big word is that we are utilizing land. We produce maize here, we send to the GMB, we produce tobacco to different companies, but I know that tobacco is supporting government in terms of foreign currency, as much as we know. So I don't expect the government to say to us, you must go back home.
The farmers who occupied this land did so back in 2002. Since then, they've raised their families here, built their homes, worked the land and developed their farms from scratch. And so for them, this is the only home they know. They're adamant that they won't move.
Saka isusu zebipa The bilateral agreement has nothing to do with us. All we know is that we were given this land by our government and told we would be here forever.
The government insists that former landowners can only return where feasible. It's agreed to pay $3.5 billion in compensation to the others for improvements on the land. But that constitutionally provided payoff is being challenged in court.
We believe that it is overcompensation which does not take into account the fundamental requirements of Section 72, subsection 7, that originally this land was stolen through violence, through robbery, and developed through slave labor.
It's hoped the compensation will bring closure to the contentious issue.
You couldn't get significant investment on farms that had conflict. But if you remove that conflict, obviously it creates the opportunity for people to go back on that land and make it productive. By opening up the space and investment in this sector, I think we can begin to see agriculture booming, and if it does, as you know, the multiplier effect on the rest of the economy benefits everyone.
The agricultural sector is the largest employer. It supplies 60% of industrial raw materials and accounts for over 40% of exports.
Kenya Airways has been struggling to survive the COVID-19 pandemic that has just about wrecked the industry. Now the airline needs at least $500 million bailout funds to survive. Correspondent Robert Nagila has the story.
Like most African airlines, Kenya Airways was already in the red over the past few years, but it had a plan to get back to profitability. That's until the COVID-19 pandemic disrupted the industry. The carrier was forced to suspend both domestic and international flights, resuming international operations in August. When CGTN caught up with the airline's chief executive in August, it was clear the airline was struggling.
Since late March, when we stopped flying, up to now, we have probably lost between around about $100 million. When we project to the end of the year, based on the demand that we see today, we will lose about $400 million of revenue.
Kilavuka now says the airline urgently needs a bailout of at least $500 million. Last month, the airline began restructuring its business as it tries to remain competitive.
We cannot keep an airline at 100% when the demand is only 50%. And that is why we need to restructure the airline. So restructure just, the assets, restructure the operations itself, how we operate. And then, of course, unfortunately, even for employees. And like you said, it's a very painful thing to do.
Before COVID-19, Kenya Airways was flying to 55 destinations globally, carrying 4 million passengers annually. Since resuming international flights, it's now flying to about 30 destinations. Kilavuka wants the carrier, which is 49% state-owned, to be nationalized alongside the Kenya Airports Authority, which runs the Nairobi hub under a holding structure similar to Ethiopian Airlines. 60% of revenue at Nairobi's Jomo Kenyatta International Hub is generated by the carrier.
Egypt announced on Sunday it has discovered a collection of more than 13 intact sealed coffins dating back to 2,500 years. Egyptian Ministry of Tourism says the coffins were found at an archaeological site in Sawara Necropolis in Giza, west of Cairo. And correspondent Adil El Marouki has the story.
An Egyptian archaeological team led by Mustafa Waziri, the Secretary General of the Supreme Council of Antiquities, has made a great Egyptological discovery. Their excavations at the Saqqara area, that's west of Cairo, found a shaft leading to an old Egyptian burial site. The team found several chambers and have so far unearthed 20 well-preserved coffins.
We started just a couple of weeks ago, and we were really lucky. We found the beginning of a shaft with a lot of debris, of course. We start taking this debris out. We found that the shaft is almost 10 meters depth, a lot of dusts. We start cleaning step by step. We found a lot of objects, especially statues, wooden statues of the god Bitah Sukr, and he was the main god of this area.
The coffins are believed to be from the 26th dynasty and are estimated to be around 2,500 years old. Time was kind to them, preserving their bright colors and keeping the wooden shell intact. So mummies inside are expected to be in great shape.
We're still studying to figure out, to realize more and more and more information about those guys. But according to the condition of the wooden coffins, about the final and the perfect colors, paintings, hieroglyphic, so it seems to me that those guys, they were high-rank people. Till now I cannot tell. Were they high priests? Were they judges? Were they nobles? I don't know yet.
Because the discovery is very recent, the coffins must be left for weather conditioning before they're opened. Waziri says they're expecting to unearth more findings as their excavations at this site continue. The iconic Djoser Step Pyramid marks the desert site of the Saqqara area, the necropolis of ancient Egypt. In recent years, this archaeological site has witnessed great discoveries of well-preserved ancient Egyptian treasures.
When we return, international news. Pressure mounts on U.S. senators to support or oppose a quick vote to confirm replacements for deceased Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And later, sport. Obafemi Martins joins Chinese Super League side Wuhan FC.
You are watching ANN.
Whether in your house, at your office, on your phone or online, we are there. We have the facts behind the headlines. We cut to the chase with the news you really need. We cover every angle. We are the bigger, better news network. We are African News Network. ANN. Watch ANN News on MITV from a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. Demonstrations have been held across Germany demanding that the rich must pay for the crisis. Protesters said regular people should not shoulder the burden of the coronavirus pandemic. Correspondent Evangelos Sipsas was there.
People have gathered here in one of Berlin's wealthiest neighborhoods expressing their anger at the government's measures to tackle the coronavirus pandemic. It's part of nationwide demonstrations under the banner, "The rich should pay for the crisis," demanding that ordinary people should not shoulder the burden of the pandemic.
Corona crisis is definitely or the measures to fight it, and of course it's super necessary to do that, but the burden is paid by the low-income groups.
We see that in the times of the crisis, the rich are trying to take rights from the poor. They're trying to reduce the minimum wage in Germany. These are things that are openly discussed in the moment, and I'm sure that we should go out on the street and show there's nothing to take away from the people who are actually doing all the work.
Around 500 people of all ages showed up with the main message: to make the rich pay for the pandemic crisis. Although the organizers tried to avoid any national and political party flags in a post on Twitter, dozens of banners with political slogans and Antifa flags could easily be identified. The demonstrators moved through the affluent neighborhood of Charlottenburg in West Berlin, flanked by dozens of police officers, and chanted anti-capitalist slogans. Some wore masks of figures such as Amazon chief Jeff Bezos and German Chancellor Angela Merkel over their mandated face covering.
Merkel and all her associates are responsible for using the instruments at their disposal to protect renters, to protect citizens, to protect the environment, and to protect the world from the coronavirus. They could do that, but instead they are caught up in allowing the rich to become even richer. That won't do.
Unlike a few weeks ago where thousands marched in the center of Berlin demanding looser restrictions with no masks, the organizers of this demo made it clear on their Facebook page that all participants should respect the government's measures.
People mostly from the left of the political spectrum are out here demanding that the German government will shift the burden away from the working people. A large police presence also can be seen, ensuring that this demonstration will not escalate like the previous one, where protesters tried to enter the German parliament. Well, those people protesting behind me may not agree on wearing a mask, quarantining after traveling, or a second lockdown, but they do have one thing in common: make the wealthy pay for the crisis.
The U.S. ban on WeChat and TikTok in the U.S. has been placed on hold after a judge temporarily halts the process as President Donald Trump endorses a new partnership among TikTok, Walmart, and Oracle to oversee the app's U.S. operations.
Judge Laurel Beeler said a lawsuit launched by a collective of WeChat users could have merit, especially in terms of possible restrictions on freedom of speech and also claims of hardship to users of the app. This order by the judge also prevents the government from restricting infrastructure companies from carrying WeChat's internet traffic. The ban was supposed to go into effect Sunday. Officials from the U.S. Commerce Department had said in a call to reporters earlier this week that they anticipated a long legal fight to try to curb WeChat's presence here in the United States. The app TikTok had also been slated to be banned from being downloaded in the United States until the surprise deal announced Saturday. As part of the new deal, software giant Oracle, TikTok and Walmart will create something called TikTok Global, which will be based in the United States. Oracle will look after all of US user data and safeguard TikTok's computer systems. The two US companies will hold a 20% stake in TikTok Global. ByteDance will hold the remaining 80%. In announcing the deal, President Donald Trump said that his previous concerns over security of the app had been reassured now that TikTok Global will be based in the United States. To give an idea of just how chaotic these last-minute negotiations have been, as part of the deal, TikTok Global will make a $5 billion donation to an education fund. TikTok said on Sunday that the first it heard about this donation was from news reports of the deal. Still, in a statement, TikTok said it was looking forward to investing in educational projects across the world.
As the U.S. mourns Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader, who died on Friday, President Donald Trump has vowed to nominate a successor this week. The head of the Senate says it would move to confirm the nominee, but Democrats are pushing back. Two key Republican senators say they would argue to wait for a Supreme Court confirmation vote until after the election in November. What's clear is that both parties see this as a key battle just 6 weeks before Election Day.
Up next, sports. Obafemi Martins joins Chinese Super League side, One FC. Please stay with us.
You are watching ANN.
We are on the road every day, canvassing throughout Africa for news you really need. We follow the story everywhere, from every corner of Nigeria to the wide African expanse. We bring you what's making headlines. We connect you with news you can use. ANN, African News Network, in a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. In sport, former Super Eagles striker Obafemi Martins has joined Chinese Super League side One FC on a one-year deal. The 35-year-old joined One on a free after his contract with Shanghai Shenhua was terminated last week. Martins had previously played for Inter Milan, Newcastle, Robin Kazan, Levante and C2 Sanders in the Major League Soccer. One are currently fourth in the CSL Group B table with 16 points from 11 games. American golfer Bryson DeChambeau won the 120th edition of U.S. Open Championships on Sunday at Ringed Foot Golf Club in New York. The win marks the first victory for DeChambeau at one of golf's major championships. DeChambeau turned 27 this week, won the tournament by a comfortable margin of 6 strokes. That is in the news this evening. Thank you for joining us. For details on these and other breaking stories, visit our website, annafrica.news. Conversation continues on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at ANN Africa TV. I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Have a pleasant evening.